there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Oh, there's magic coming. Where you gonna be tonight?
Let me see if I can get Instagram to hear the theme song.
Oh, there's magic coming. There's magic coming. Get ready for the rest of your life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to SassafrasCast. This is a very special episode of SassafrasCast because we are recording it live. Now, we always record SassafrasCast live for my patrons. However, today we're recording live for everyone. So forgive me if you're listening back to this and the beginning of it feels a little bit disjointed. It's because I'm going live all over on all my Sassafras Tarot social media. And I want to make sure here at the beginning of this that everybody can see and hear me. So I'm going to take a quick moment to do that. If you are seeing me for the first time and you're like, what is SassafrasCast? Because we're doing this kind of open house broadcast. SassafrasCast is my witchy podcast. I am Rorie Kelly. I am a podcaster, tarot reader, singer-songwriter, and all-around personal growth nerd from Long Island, New York. And I made SassafrasCast honestly so that I would have a place to share my own meandering thoughts and experiences around my psycho-spiritual growth. And so it's not just a tarot podcast. We're talking about tarot today. I am a tarot reader, and that is what a lot of people know me as. But it's not just a tarot podcast. It is a podcast about all things witchy, all things wonderful, and kind of psycho-spiritual vibes. And what I mean by psycho-spiritual is that I talk a lot about practices, and for me, what makes a spiritual practice meaningful isn't necessarily what I think is happening under the hood. I don't need to believe that some kind of big energy or magic or divinity is necessarily happening for me to find a spiritual practice meaningful. There are a lot of people who ask like, oh, what if this is, what if this isn't real? What if this is all in your head, blah, blah, blah. And to me, I choose practices on purpose that are meaningful regardless. If everything I do is quote unquote all in my head, I know that it's still worth it because it is making my life better one day at a time, because showing up for it helps, right? Emotionally, psychologically, whatever you want to say. The human brain responds very well to ritual. And so I give it ritual to respond to. And I have found it to help me. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about the tarot today because I am about to launch my 8-week tarot course, Keys to the Kingdom. And I thought, well, let me do like a tarot-centric podcast this month where I talk about making your tarot readings meaningful. So that's what I'm here for. I am here to tell you how to make your tarot cards make sense. And if you're tuned in, say hello, let me know. I want to make sure that I can see all the comments and everything. Let's take a look where the comments are at. Okay, so I know I'm live. I'm live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and Instagram. Again, bear with me if you're listening to, if you're listening to the podcast. I know you'll hear some of these little like, am I live? How's everything going? And I will be making room for anyone who's tuned in live. You're welcome to drop a comment in there and say hello. And as well as like ask questions if you have them as they come up. I'll be doing, if there are questions at the end that I feel like are helpful to get into this episode and like will benefit everyone, I'll do a little Q&A. And even if there end up being like too many and I can't get to all of them, I will still like go back into the comments and answer your question. But yeah. So the topic of today's podcast is how to make tarot readings make sense. Are you somebody who has read for yourself or dabbled perhaps in the tarot? And have you ever had the experience of reading for yourself, pulling some cards out of your tarot deck, maybe looking up the meanings in the little book that comes along with the card and going, I'm more confused than when I started? Because a lot of people ask me that. a lot of people have come to me individually asking if I teach tarot, and that's why I'm doing this course. I did it last year for the first time, and it was really meaningful. And prior to that, I had like taken on like tarot, like I had mentored people individually. So I'd taken on tarot proteges, like kind of upon, like someone coming to me and asking me like, oh, what would you charge for lessons and stuff like that. And I found it to be very rewarding. And over the years, I've been reading for about 25 years now, I have developed my own approach that kind of blends our personal intuition along with the traditional meanings of the tarot deck, because both are important. And you'll sometimes hear people describe themselves as either an intuitive reader or a traditional reader. And I believe that both components make for a really good tarot reading. And so I'm going to take you through a little process of how to pull a card for yourself and use both of those things. Use your own intuition, which has to be a first step, not a second step, and also the traditional meaning of the card, and connect the dots and make it make sense with your question. Because many, many people come to me and say, I read cards, but I don't get readings like you. When I come to you for a reading, you give me advice that speaks right to my question, and you help me understand what's going on around the question and how to kind of harness that energy, and I leave feeling like I can make some good empowered choices and decisions. And when I read for myself, I pull the cards and I look at the meanings, and then I pull more cards and I look at more readings, and I get confused. I don't feel like I got a good answer. How do I connect the dots, in other words? So that is the purpose of this episode. How the bleep do I make my tarot cards make sense? If you are a patron, welcome. Usually I begin all of my live broadcasts with a shout out to my patrons, and I just didn't get the current patron list updated today. So know that I'm shouting you all out in my heart. Shout out to my patrons. If you would like to be a part of this and get access to the live recording as it happens every single month, you can join at patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot. I usually shout out all of my patrons at the beginning of every episode. And there's also, depending on how you choose to, contribute and get involved at Patreon, you can get access to bonus episodes and get access to individual card pulls from me every single month. So if that's something you're interested in, patreon.com/Sassafras Tarot. Let's get started. So I have a lot to share with you today. Specifically, I'm sharing with you a 4-step process of how to make your tarot readings meaningful and make them connect the dots. And I also, at the beginning of every podcast episode, pull a card for everyone to give us the energy of the moment. And I call this the Witchy Weather Report. And if you know me on social media, you know I also go live usually around the last weekend of the month with the Witchy Weather Report for the following month. And I do that in my podcast as well. So let's begin. I'm shuffling. We got these big, good shuffle noises in. I'm shuffling. This is the Everyday Witch Tarot by Elizabeth Alba and Deborah Blake. And let me let you know that when I pull a card for this portion of the podcast for the Witchy Weather Report, my intention is that wherever and whenever it find you, whether you're watching this live, whether you're listening to the broadcast later, whether you have found my podcast 5 years later and are just now listening, my intention is that this card have meaning for you, the listener, wherever and whenever you are right in the moment. So today's card is the 6 of Cups. Let's talk about emotional generosity, and let's get real tonight. We're talking about inner child healing. That is the energy right now that we need. We need to be willing to show up for our inner child, for our inner self. For the parts of ourselves that still feel small and vulnerable, the parts of ourselves maybe that had important needs that didn't get met when we were younger. Because we all have it. We all have kind of gaps, right? We have missing, gaps in like things that we didn't learn when we were younger that we had to figure out as an adult, or things that we didn't get when we were younger that we try to find for ourselves as an adult. And people say we grow into the person we needed when we were younger. And the 6 of Cups is an invitation for you right now to turn that energy inward. You have grown into the person you needed when you were younger. Is there some healing inside of you that still needs to happen? And can you offer it to yourself? Can you make room for a younger version of you that didn't have all the resources you have now? And is there a way that you can show up for that that part of you and let them know that you're safe now, that it's okay to be able to give younger you what you needed. Can you do that for yourself right now? That's the practice right now. That's what the work looks like, is showing up with emotional generosity for yourself. And you may find too, if you have interactions with people who are either older or younger than you, that those interactions may be significant. As you have interactions with someone who maybe is a little bit of a way shower for you, shows you the way, offers you some kindness or a leg up or some information because they maybe wish they had it when they were younger, or you might find yourself sharing things with people who you meet who are younger than you, either literally younger or people who are like a few steps earlier on the journey than you are, right? A few steps behind you. And you may have an opportunity to share with them, hey, here's something I wish I knew when I was in your shoes. So it's an opportunity for that kind of healing, both out in the world and internally. We're able to have that synchronicity, should you choose to have it in your life right now. Let's dive in. Some of you were around for the Meaningful Tarot workshop, which I taught last weekend. And I do this every year where first I do the 2-day Meaningful Tarot workshop. I teach this 4-step process that I'm about to share with you now on the podcast. And then I dive into an 8-week tarot course for those who want to really dive deep, really, for those who want to go all in and study the tarot very seriously and do so in a community of other learners so that they have that peer support as well as, the support of me who's been reading for 25 years and can help kind of lovingly guide you away from pitfalls and lovingly help you find your own voice as a reader. Because my goal when I teach tarot is not about making another one of me. It's about not even making you into, but helping you find the intuitive reader that is within you. Anyway, how do we make our tarot readings make sense? This episode is for you, and I'm going to invite you right now, whether you're listening live or whether you are listening after the fact, if you have a deck of cards, it could be tarot cards, could even be oracle cards that you want to work with during this broadcast, to go ahead and get them and do a reading live along with me. Because I'm going to teach you a 4-step process to do your readings, and doing it along with me might really, really, first of all, it'll be a great reading for you because you'll have a lot of hand holding and help you connect the dots. And secondly, often learning and then doing right away can really help us cement something. So go ahead and pause me if you want. I always invite people to go ahead and pause me. That's the beauty of broadcasting. If you need a minute, take it. You can. That is the glory of me sharing with you in this way. And grab yourself a deck of cards. The way that I teach people to read the tarot, apart from all the stuff we have to learn that you can learn in almost any tarot book, right? You can learn what the 78 cards mean traditionally. You can learn different tarot spreads, different ways to lay out the cards and what different card position means. You can learn how to work with reversals, all these different things. Yes, I teach that. But at the core, what I teach is for you to be able to access your own intuition and access the traditional wisdom of the tarot and to connect the dots. Because that is how to get a good tarot reading. And it's also how to get a reading where you feel like, yep, I know I have my question answered. And what's really special and amazing is no two tarot readers will approach this in the exact same way because we're all individual humans. And so I'm not about trying to create carbon copies of myself as a reader. I'm about putting you in touch with your intuition and how it works. So let's dive in. The first step to a tarot reading, and we're going to all do this together, is asking the right question. If you've seen my broadcast before, you know that I have strong opinions on what makes a good question for a tarot reading. In my opinion, a good question for a tarot reading is one that you can act on. Is a question that will make you feel, when you get the answer, whatever the answer is, even if it's one you don't like, okay, I have the information I need and I can move forward, right? Whereas sometimes I get questions where I know perfectly well that it's a do or die kind of question. Will he call me? Am I going to get married this year? Am I going to lose my home? Will I ever get pregnant? These questions, first of all, a lot of those questions are better asked to other people than the tarot. Will he call me? Am I going to get married? Ask the person you're dating. My goodness. They will know better than the tarot cards, and the conversation might be needed, it sounds like, right? Will I ever get pregnant? Talk to a doctor, not the pretty pictures on the pieces of paper. There is someone who is good to ask those questions to, and sometimes people come to the tarot when they're not ready yet. And what I try to do as a reader is get to the question beneath the question, right? What's really on your heart? What's really on your heart when you're asking these do or die questions is, what can I do? Right? You don't really want a yes or no. You don't really want to know, is he going to call me? Or am I going to die alone? That's not really, you don't want a reading where one of the answers is I tell you, yeah, honey, you're going to die alone. First of all, I would never do that because free will is a thing and there's a lot of choices and different things that can happen outside of me giving you a reading that can change your fate, right? But secondly, it's not helpful. I think the right question is a helpful question. So is he going to call me or am I going to die alone is not a helpful question. It is a question that might make you feel good or might make you feel horrible, and that's not the goal of a tarot reading. We don't go get a tarot reading to either feel good or horrible, like roll the dice, what's going to happen to my mood today? We get a tarot reading because we want some insight. We want some perspective. The way we seek perspective if maybe we're going through a tough time and we need to call a friend who knows us really well, We go to the tarot when we need that perspective. So the first step of the process is ask the question under the question, ask the right question. So I'm going to ask you, if you're reading along with me, what is your question? And I always invite people, and you can do this whether you're seeing live or whether you're seeing the replay. You can pop in a comment and let me know if you have a question and you're like, I don't know, I don't think this is a good question, but I don't know the question underneath. Let me know because I'll help you get to the right question. So that's the first step. Ask the right question. What question are you asking the tarot? And a good question is one that you can act on. So maybe instead of, is he going to call me? Is this relationship going to work? Maybe a better question is, what can I do to get the love that I need in my life? How should I be approaching this relationship right now? What can I do to keep my home if I'm struggling? I love questions that start with, what can I do? Or how should I approach this? Or what do I need to understand about? That is a good question. So when you have your question, I'm going to invite you to shuffle your cards. However you feel like it. We don't gatekeep shuffling methods here. There's lots of ways. You could do the poker shuffle. I kind of do kind of a poker shuffle just because it's what I learned. It's just what I know how to do. You could do the kind of in your hands, moving, just kind of wiggling the cards around in your hands. Some people like to just throw the cards on a table and just smush them around until they're just a weird sea of cards and then put them back together. Whatever feels good. We're going to shuffle. And when you're ready, you will select a card. Don't jump steps. If you're reading this along with me, do not jump steps. Notice that I said select a card. I didn't tell you what to do after that. Don't go immediately to the little book that came with your tarot deck and look it up. Just pull the card out. Because step 2 is to say what you see. So when you've selected a card, take a look at that card. And I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to do this reading along with you as a real reading so that you can kind of see an example, and also so we can all get a little collective reading. And the question I'm going to ask is, what is the energy that this collective watching this podcast, what do we need right now? How do we need to show up for ourselves right now? And I've pulled a card about that. Step 2, after you ask the right question, is to look at the card and say what you see. This is a deceptively simple question because when you look at a tarot card, your eye will be drawn to different places every time you look at it. And I want you to go ahead and make up a story. This is how we access our intuition. A lot of people don't know how to get to their intuition. A very easy way is to look at the card and say what you see and allow yourself to run with it. Allow yourself to tell a story about it, or like, oh, well, I think this figure on the card is doing this and I think they're feeling this thing. Allow yourself to identify some feelings, maybe the feelings that you see in the card or feelings that you feel when you look at the picture. This is what I think is happening. This is why. And here's how I feel about it. That's how we intuitively look at a tarot card. So this is step 2, to look at the card and say what you see. And if you're doing this along with me, I invite you to pause me or mute me so that you can do this. Go ahead and look at your card and say what you see. And you might choose to kind of do this exercise where you say what you see, you tell the story of what you think is happening on the card and why and what feelings it brings up for you. And you might want to write that down. You might want to use like a voice recorder on your phone, anything to capture it, because right now we're gathering data. So take a look at the card and say what you see. I'm going to show you the card I pulled for us, which is what is the energy the collective needs right now? It's the 5 of Cups. I'm going to say what I see. I'm going to look at this card. I know what this card means traditionally. I've been reading tarot for 25 years, but I'm going to tune that part of me out and look with my intuition at this card. And what I see is this beautiful spread and these beautiful balloons and this sense of celebration and possibility. And we're at the beach, and the beach is like where the ocean meets the land. So we have this beautiful in-between space where there's nothing but possibility. And despite all of this joy and potential, the figure on the card looks really down. They have spilled some of their cups, and the wine is like trickling out of their cups into the sea. And even though there's so much potential and so much to celebrate, all they see is their loss. And what I see is someone who is struggling, who wants to show up, who wants to be their best selves, who wants to be grateful, who wants to show up the best they can. But they have pain in their heart because they're grieving. That's what I see when I look at this card. And I want to tell them, as someone who has done a lot of work on myself and as someone who just has compassion, I want to tell them that it's going to be okay. And I want to tell them that they're allowed to be sad. So that's what I feel intuitively when I look at this card. Now, we've done steps 1 of 3. This is a 4-step process. Stay with me, kids. We've asked the question and we've looked at the card and gotten our intuitive feeling about it. And now is when we consult the traditional meaning. So that might mean if there's a little book that came with your tarot cards, it might mean that. If you have a list of tarot readings that you like to collect, that you like to look at online, you can do that. If you have a book that you love that to use as a reference, you can use that, right? Any kind of reference material. And if you'd like a good reference of meanings that are just kind of like to the point and will help you understand a card better, I have my own personal reference guide that I made for my tarot students. And you can get it anytime by just emailing me, sassafrastarot@gmail.com. If you would like my tarot guide, just my own personal, like 25 years of experience reading the tarot. Here's what each of the 78 cards means, you know, my own kind of mix of my experience and traditional knowledge. If you would like to get that, email me or reach out, like message me, you know, on social media. That's fine too. I'm at Sassafras Tarot everywhere. So we go to step 3 and we check on the meaning of the card according to tradition. And it's important, we're not using step 3 to check our intuition. Both are important. So we're not making ourselves wrong. If we see something in the meaning of the card and we're like, oh, that's not what I felt when I looked at the card, I must be wrong. No, we're not making ourselves wrong. We're getting more information. We're getting the information from our intuition, which tells us important things, and we're getting information from tradition, which has other important things to say. And if we find that there's a lot of similarities, well, then we know we're on the right track, right? Then we're like, oh, this is a powerful reading. It's a very clear answer, right? But if we're finding that the traditional meaning seems to mean a little bit different than our intuition, that shouldn't short circuit us. We shouldn't be like, oh, I guess I was wrong. No. Now's the opportunity to get deep. Now's the opportunity to think about the difference between these two perspectives. And like, what's the common denominator? And why might I have seen something that this tradition doesn't seem to say? And what might that mean in context, right? So we're just looking to see what tradition has to say about the card. And I recommend looking for a reference book that you really like, looking for, kind of a Tarot 101 reference. There's several that are online that are free. You can get mine for free. You can, if you have a book that you love, or if there's a little white book that came with your cards that you really like the definition of, use that. Some people, though, look at the little white book and they're like, this doesn't make any sense to me. These meanings are too abstract. I can't connect the dots. So if that's the case, it's okay to kind of shop around and find a reference that kind of speaks to you and speaks your language that you understand a little better. So we're at step 3. We have done 3 things so far. We're not done. We've asked a good question. We have consulted our own intuition, and we have looked up the traditional meaning of the card. And I'll share my own step 3, which is from my own memory and my own, experience as 25 years as a tarot reader, is that the 5 of Cups is a card of grief. It is a card of feeling disappointed. Even though we still have some good things, we're still grieving something. Right? It's the truth of, like, you have to take the good with the bad, right? We have to take the bad with the good too. And sometimes we are grieving in such a way that it makes it hard for us to feel grateful because we just have pain on our heart. That's the meaning of the 5 of Cups. And depending on who you're talking to, the advice you might give might be like, hey, cheer up. Like, you've still got so much, going for you. Or the advice might be, hey, you're allowed to feel your feelings. And that all depends on, the person you're reading for, whether it's yourself, whether it's a friend, right? It depends on, like, what's really going to help in the moment. And that's part of how your intuition gets into a reading too, Not everyone needs the same advice in the same situation. So we move on to step 4. Now, step 4 of this process, I call this the meaningful tarot process, not for any reason, just because I kind of was trying to come up with a quick name that made sense. And that's really what I think I'm getting at, is a reading that has meaning, that makes us feel like, yep, I get it now, I made sense of that. And step 4 is that, it's connecting the dots. So we're looking at the question we asked. And the question I asked is, what energy does the collective need right now? And we are going to deliberately look at our notes, look at what we kind of took in with our intuition, and look at what we kind of took in with tradition. And we're going to connect the dots between the two. And we are going to answer the question, just like when we were in school and you'd have to, like, answer, like, a paragraph question, like reading comprehension, what happened in this story with the teacher and the student, and you would answer by saying, what happened in this story was blah, 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 right? So we put the question into the answer. So my question was, what energy does the collective need? So my answer is going to start with, it's a fill in the blank. The energy that the collective needs is. And then you look at what you brought up during steps 2 and 3, where you looked at your own intuition, where you saw what was on the card and talked about it and felt your way through it. And when you looked at the traditional meaning and you try to connect the dots, you're like, okay, I have a lot of information here. Now I'm doing critical thinking here. Like, we do have to use our brains to read the tarot. How does this apply to my question? A common pitfall that a lot of beginner tarot readers, a lot of them fall into, is they forget the question they asked. People will ask a question. They'll be like, what do I do about this relationship? What do I do about my job? Blah, 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 blah. And they'll pull a card and they'll look up the definition and they'll be like, oh, I guess this. And they will literally forget to apply the meaning of that card to the question that they asked. So the question I asked, to use the example, is, what energy does the collective need? And we have the 5 of Cups. The way I'm going to answer that is that the energy the collective needs is to allow ourselves both grief and hope. Grief and hope. To allow ourselves to feel our feelings about what has been lost. And also to allow ourselves to see that we have so much potential for the future. And that's me putting the pieces together, right? putting together, what did I see when I just looked at the card myself? What did I feel and sense about it? And also, what do I know the traditional meaning to be? And I'm putting the two together and saying what the collective needs right now is to allow themselves to feel both grief and hope. We need both. We need to make room for our hard feelings and our good feelings. We need to believe in a better future, and we need to let ourselves grieve what we can't have or what didn't work out. So let me ask you, if you're doing this along with me, and I really invite you, by the way, if you did a reading along with me and you either need help interpreting it or just feel like sharing what came up for you, please put it in the comments, whether you're here live with us or whether you're like later, like watching this after the fact or listening on the podcast. You can also email me, because I love to geek out about a tarot reading. So how did your 4 steps come out? If you would like a copy of my own definitions of the 78 cards, you can have it. All you have to do is email or message me on social media or email at sassafrastarot@gmail.com, and I will give you my own personal kind of card dictionary. And if you would like a copy of these 4 steps that I just shared with you so you can kind of follow the text along, again, just email me and let me know. If you're a patron, you are going to get a pre-recorded tarot class from me that goes deeper. So I think I'm going to give you the Major Arcana class, the class on the first 22 cards in the deck, and just like me going deep with those meanings for you. If you're a bonus patron, so if you, the $5 and up patrons get the bonus episode. So if you're a bonus patron, actually I think I'm going to give it to every patron this time, because usually every patron gets this special live broadcast and I'm giving it to everyone. So every patron's getting a bonus episode this time around, and you will get me going through the Major Arcana card by card and really sharing both my take on them and also my like experiences that have come up for me as a reader with them. So the next segment of this podcast is Which You Got This. And it's the point at the podcast in which I kind of like leave you with something that you can do right now to move forward with your practice. And what I'm going to suggest to you is start asking the tarot cards a question every day. And if every day is too much, sometimes every day feels like, yeah, I'll do this every day and I'll get so good. And then we fall off the wagon because it's a lot to do something every day. Sometimes that's too much, right? So if every day is too much, I'm going to suggest to you every week. Maybe at the beginning of the week, you can ask yourself, what do I need to understand this week? Like, what's the lesson this week? That's a great question to ask, right? Or what's the weather this week? I love that question. Not the literal weather, like the vibe, And follow this 4-step process, one card at a time, and then go through at the end of the day or at the end of the week and just write down your impressions of what actually happened in answer to that question, right? If your question was like, what kind of vibe is the week going to bring? Maybe you could even, before you even look back at like, what you thought it would be, maybe you could even journal a little bit about like, well, here is what I feel like the vibe of the week was. And then you can go back and look at what your answers were before and compare and contrast, right? We're not doing this exactly to make ourselves right or wrong. We're doing this to see like, oh, we're gaining experience, because that is also what makes you a good reader. Is you use some of your intuition, you use some of the traditional knowledge, and you gain experience. You do a reading, you see what happens. You do a reading, you see what happens, right? It's a scientific method. Or fuck around and find out, which is the scientific method. So try this at home. Pull a card for yourself, maybe once a day, maybe once a week, and just follow this 4-step process with it. And then come back to that reading the next day or the next week or whatever, and just see how it went. Again, we're not like giving ourselves a harsh review. We're just doing it to learn, right? The more you do it, the more you'll learn. Allow it to be a journey. And I promise you, if you do this every day or every week, you will really grow as a tarot reader. All right, friends. This brings us to the end of our podcast. Short podcast this time. I know I often, if you're new to SassafrasCast, you don't know. But if this is the first time you've seen one of my podcasts, you don't know. But I often go on for longer about a topic. And I talk about really any kind of psycho-spiritual topics on this podcast that come to mind, whether it is sleep magic and dream magic, which are just passions of mine that I love to geek out about, or self-care, or healing, or moon magic, or meditations. And someone who's been practicing these things for a long time myself, and also kind of trying to do the work, because this is not just a witchy podcast, it's kind of a doing the work podcast, a personal healing, personal growth podcast. I just kind of share my experiences with these things, and I often have ideas about like, well, try this, and the point of this podcast is not to set myself up as like someone who knows better than everyone. It's to have this ongoing conversation with the world around me of like, hey, here's my experience. How about yours? So subscribe to SassafrasCast wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find it by searching SassafrasCast. Anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find it as a video on YouTube by going to youtube.com/@SassafrasCast. And you can find me on social media at Sassafras Tarot pretty much everywhere. And it's in fact, that's the YouTube. It's not SassafrasCast. It's at Sassafras Tarot. I apologize. So 2 words that are hard to spell. SassafrasTarot. Sassafras Tarot. Find me there on social media or email sassafrastarot@gmail.com. Let me know how your readings go. Let me know if you get stuck. Let me know if you're like, I tried to follow your process and I got stuck. Help. I would love to talk to you about it just because I'm a nerd and I love that. And if you're interested in joining me for the 8-week tarot class that is about to get started 1 week from today, it's called Keys to the Kingdom. I'll tell you a little bit about it. And you can decide. We've reached a crossroads where you get to make a decision. So I am offering you a decision. That's how I approach everything when I run my classes. It's not about me trying to sell something to someone. I know that the people who are meant to work with me are going to come to me. So I'm not interested in being salesy. I'm just interested in sharing. Here's what it is. So you can make the decision about if it's right for you. And Keys to the Kingdom is an all-in class, meaning you will learn all the things. You will learn all the meanings of the cards. You will learn how to work with reversals. You will learn how to work with spreads. You will learn how to find your own ethics as a tarot reader. You will learn how to find like, I do read about this, I don't read about that, right? Like how to draw boundaries with your different clients. You will learn about reading for yourself and reading for others. There are 2 different experiences, and we will get a lot of hands-on practice and a lot of feedback together. So that's the other part of this, is you'll learn all the things intellectually that a tarot book might teach you, but we will be working together as a group and doing a practice session every week as well. Now, last week, I tried to put that into 1 class a week. What I would do is I would have a class time, it was like 90 minutes or something like that, and first I would talk about a topic for a long time, to share what I know about that topic, so that I made sure that people had the information about it. And then we would do some practice together. And what I found was that it was a lot. It was a lot for people to digest. So this year I've made the class better, but I have kept the price the same. Because the prices of everything is going up, and I don't need to raise the prices of my tarot class too. Even though I'm doing twice the work, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to me to just make it a better class and keep the price the same, because I think I don't know. It's just where my heart is at. So we're doing 1 class a week that is a me sharing with you class. It's going to be a video drop. So you can be live for that class, and I will be in the comments answering questions, or you can watch it whenever it's convenient for you. So every Monday the video will drop. And every Sunday, the following Sunday, we'll get together and we'll practice what we learned. So that does 2 things. That's me giving an upgrade because I watched what did and didn't go well in the class last year. And I'm like, okay, people need a chance to digest the information and practice with it, and then they need some hands-on practice with the group. And so separating those 2, class and then practice session. So we meet twice a week. Once is for class, and it's at your leisure, right? The video drops Monday, but you can watch it whenever. And the other one is on Sundays, and we do our practice sessions. And the practice session really makes a difference if you can make it. And that's why I try to put it on Sundays. It's a day a lot of people can do. It's also a small class. So if you're like, I don't know if this exact time works for me, I'm going to ask you to reach out to me, because I am open to adjusting the time. If I have enough students say, can you do this instead? Yeah, I'm open to that. That's the beauty of small classes. And we practice with each other and we learn and we grow. And it's also a really good energy. It's like a slumber party. It's like the girls' room at 11 o'clock at night in the bar. You know, when you go in and someone's crying and every other woman in the room is like looking after her and telling her how amazing she is and telling her she can do better than that dirtbag, right? It's just like this great slumber party energy where we're all learning and growing together. So it's an 8-week class. If you are interested, you can visit, I wrote this down. If you're interested, hang on, I'm like looking at my own window here. You can visit either the link in my bio if you're watching right now on Instagram, because I put it right in there, or you can go to tinyurl.com/tarotkeys25. Tarot Keys 25. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. And I'll put that as a comment on this broadcast as well for you. So that if you want to find it, if you're watching the replay, or if you're watching live, the comment will come up like shortly after the broadcast ends. If you would like to join me for Keys to the Kingdom, have an 8-week tarot journey with me, I would friggin' love that. And if you have questions about it, message me anytime. You know how to get in touch. Thank you so much. Try this at home. Let me know how this 4-step tarot reading process works for you. I have had people who have read for a long time tell me that it really clarified their readings. And I've had people who are brand new beginners telling me that that gave them the courage to read for themselves consistently. And so for me, that's how I know, okay, good. I found a thing that works for a lot of people. That's where I'm at. I'm about finding the thing that will work. So let me know how this goes. And I hope you have a wonderful farewell, friends.